Hello everyone, Flick here and welcome to another contrast paint video, but today we're not doing a Citadel miniature, we're doing a Night Models miniature. This is Batman from the Rebirth generation of comics, already based in Grey Seer. I can probably zoom in a little bit. Working on this camera being more at home with zooming. It's not great at the super close-ups, unfortunately, working with what we have. Anyway, so this is what we're going to attempt. Night Models are resin miniatures, so it's not plastic. And they are very detailed, but they're also very small and thin compared to Citadel's miniatures, especially if you're used to Space Marines and the like, they're bulky. This isn't the first attempt painting a Night Models miniature in contrast paint, but for comparison's sake, here is a model just done in normal Citadel paint. And with Batman, the models of Batman in particular, there's a lot of black, and black is hard to do if you don't know how to paint very well. So this is the Chris Nolan, Christian Bale Batman, basically just a bad in black with a dry brush of silver, because his armour in particular is a little bit metallic looking. And then I think it's the Fang dry brushed on the bats. Not really super amount of detail. Also apologies for the bottle lorry in the background if you can hear it. But this is Flashpoint Batman, and he is done entirely in contrast paints. A lot of Basilicum grey with the Black Templar black on the cape, and then just a little bit of Blood Angels red on the highlights on the suit. So we're going to be moderately imitating that, using much the same colours. So we've got Basilicum grey, right there. We're going to be using Black Templar. We're also going to be using a contrast paint colour that I've not used before, which is Shyless Purple, because the inside of Rebirth Batman's cape is a kind of purplish. I'm not sure if this is going to be the right tint. We're going to explore and find out for ourselves. Rebirth Batman also has some pretty strong yellow highlights on his insignia and on his utility belt. Don't think the Andin contrast paint is going to do it, so I'm probably just going to use a bog standard Flash Gets yellow Citadel paint for those, but we'll see, And for his chin, I don't know, I've been using Gilman Flesh a little bit, the contrast paint. Not that keen on the colour. It looks fine in terms of shading, just the colour is a little off, so I might just fall back on Ungor Flesh or something similar like that. So yeah, we're going to get started, probably start with the grey parts of his armour. The cape is going to be pure black on the outside, purple on the inside. We'll see. Let's build this up. So that's the black parts done. Decided to start with those because I'm going to have to do some tidying up anyway. There's a little bit of spattering up there on his abs that are going to get cleaned up before we do the grey. I'm probably going to attempt the purple now just to see what type of shade it is. If it's too bright, I don't want it to be too bright, although it'll be hard to tell until it's fully dry. I might end up going over it with Nuln Oil, or actually just like scrapping it and just using black there as well, just for that classic Batman look. But let's see what happens as we try out the Shyless Purple. So I've given a bit of time for the cape to dry. That is almost the perfect purple for what I wanted, so that's pretty good. There's obviously in the deep recesses it's still drying there, so it's going to need a bit more time, but while I was waiting for it, I just applied a base colour to the actual base. and touched up some of the bits that are in Gracier still, just so it's ready to apply the Basilicum Grey, which is what we're going to do next, along with the... I think I probably will just try Gilman Flesh on the trademark Batman chin, see how it turns out, and then we'll just have to let it dry for a while before we do the yellow. So that's the Gilman Flesh contrast paint and the Basilicanum Grey applied to the suit itself. Obviously going to take a little bit to dry. But once this is done, just got the yellow highlights on the bat insignia on his chest. Not sure if I'm up to doing the belt individual sections as well, but I'll certainly give it a go. Not going to use the contrast paint for that though, because I don't think it's going to be a strong enough yellow for what I'm aiming for, so we are just going to be using the Flash Gets Yellow that I talked about at the start. But this still needs time to dry before I attempt that. The black parts need less time than the grey parts, but you've always got to remember with contrast paints, they do kind of stick to where you put them well, but if you start turning things upside down and constantly doing this, the centre of gravity changes, and that can affect the flow, and I think that can lead to some of the very obvious kind of like swishy effects you can sometimes get if you're just not paying attention. Like I've tried after doing the cape to keep it in one direction, at worst maybe turning it 90 degrees, and I think that's probably the best cape effect I've been able to do with the contrast paint so far as a result, because usually I just forget and I'm just turning it upside down and all over the place, which is what I kind of did for the inside, so it's kind of blotchy, but not too bad. Anyway, we'll be back with a finished model, I think. Another thing I'll do is most likely use a Grax Earth shade on the base as well. So there's still a bit of drying to do, but here's the more or less finished Batman Rebirth model. The yellow done. It's a little bit brighter than I wanted it to be, but yeah, here's what we were aiming for. So you know, it's kind of close for someone who can't paint. More or less done entirely with contrast, other than the yellow essentially and the earth shade on the base there. The only other thing I did do, it may not be that obvious on the camera, just did a little bit of dry brushing with the fang on the armoured bits here, and a very, very tiny dry brush on the back just to add more... Sorry, what are you crying at? Just adding a little bit more definition to the highlight on the cape. That's literally the only other thing I did. I think it turned out well. I think that looks better than the Flashpoint Batman. Not that there's anything wrong with I think how that one came out, but good mix there. And I think the grey actually took to this one better. Maybe it just had more mold lines on it and it settled better. But yeah, the grey looks better on the Batman, I feel. This Batman, that is. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'm just going to let this dry now and then use it on the table at some point. There'll be more contrast videos in the future though, like 90% contrast with some extra paints added on. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Ta-ta for now.